recommendation for those who are just emerging from these disasters about how to coordinate across these governmental levels?
Yeah, I think I would like to say we figured it out in Hawaii, but it's still tough, right? And I think Hawaii is a more simplified form of government. We have a county, state, and the federal, right? I think I look at places in California, and I'm like, I get super confused. You have a city, you have a county, you have everyone, so many elected officials, right? But even in our simplified form of government, I think the problem was that the mayor, in theory, of the county, it's a city county, a joint kind of thing, is supposed to take the leadership in the disaster recovery. But I think at some points of the disaster recovery, people felt he was moving too slow. So I think the state would start to step in and take point. But I think looking back, and it's still persisting now, is now we have this push and pull of, okay, well, I thought that was, you're going to take that on. So for example, I think the county essentially told us at the state level, you take on the housing, of the temporary housing for the community. But as a result, they kind of took that off their plate, and now they're not thinking about the housing continuum. And I think there's some overlap. And I think, because we're providing more temporary housing on a really good price basis, now that the county's building permanent housing, and they said they would take that on, people don't want to move out of the temporary housing to the permanent housing, because the temporary housing, of course, was way less expensive. And so that continuum, there's a gap there. But I think part of it is you have to figure out how to get over some of those differences, and you have to be able to have those frank conversations. And I think in these disasters, a lot of people want to be the front person, right? They look at it as like, well, I'm the leader, but I think at a certain point, you have to put your egos aside. And I think in this case, I have to give our mayor a lot of credit, because he was the one kind of said, well, Gov, if you want to take that on, you go do it. And he played a little bit more of a passive role, but I think that, you got to know when to push, when to pull, when to get federal resources. And I think I do want to make a point, because you did make a point of, will the federal government play a role? And I think they have to play a role. I don't think we could get out of what we experienced without the help of the federal government. They tremendously pumped a lot of resources into Lahaina and the other fire area on Maui, upcountry Maui. And they have been coordinating a lot of the disaster relief. And, without that, I'm not sure we would be in the same place that we are.